So Argentina wins the Copa America, and in the US I hear a lot of talk about, oh, now Messi finally has won something with Argentina, which is great. I'm not gonna knock the win, okay? But for those of you who think Messi needed to win this trophy with Argentina in order to be considered the GOAT or a GOAT or whatever, like, I don't even really care to rank players in that way. I think that's a very, we can have the conversation, I guess, but it's very hard to decide, who's the GOAT or who the greatest player of all time is. I've been lucky enough to have lived in a great era of sports, whether it's basketball, cricket, rugby, and football, right? And what's crazy is that a lot of people think you need to win an international tournament with your national team, but I think it's a very difficult thing with international sports. It's unlike club sports. And if Messi was trying to be the GOAT by winning international trophies, he probably would have signed up to play for Spain. Because he's been there since he was 12 years old, and he has a Spanish passport. And by then he would have been, and thankfully he's not a person who thinks like that. And he's been an amazing entertainer and a gift to the world of football and beyond through his humility and the way he plays the game, and he continues to be a joy, into his mid-30s. But let's not get it twisted. Like, this guy, if he was ever going to be a GOAT, look at his career, probably from 2006 to 2016. That's when Messi is doing his best work. You can't GOAT somebody. I'm not saying he shouldn't be GOATed, by the way. I'm just saying he didn't win this if it was going to be a GOAT or not. You can't GOAT somebody for being a player, who's on his decline. He's not even the best Messi we've seen anymore. I mean, there was a time when the guy was hitting like 90-something goals or something stupid like that, in a calendar year. So just because he won with Argentina, international trophies are weird, man. So many lesser players than Messi have won the international trophy with their national team because it's birth certificate driven. A lot of teams, Argentina especially, being South American, you can win the Copa America, I guess, but like, sometimes you are born with scrub generations, and Messi, a lot of his contemporaries were not great players. I mean, he had some good players, but Argentina could not have a solid, good team as a collective. And I look at this team, it looks a lot more balanced from goalkeeper moving forward. Because I remember like Argentina playing in South Africa in the World Cup, and they were playing a 4-2-4 because Maradona decided, I'm just going to go with the back six and then 4 forwards, because there was not a lot of midfield talent to talk of in Argentina at that time, because by that time Mascherano was already playing center back at Barcelona or something. So look, I'm happy that he's won this trophy, but I just don't think it's kind of skewed thinking to think the man needed to win this trophy with Argentina to become the GOAT, or to cement his legacy in the world of football, because international football works weird, man. It's just not one of those things. And just like Ronaldo, won the Euros with Portugal. That was a shit tournament. Like, if you wanna give him credit for winning a trophy with Portugal, give him credit for winning a trophy with Portugal if he'd been one of the instigators leading it. We got to be consistent with this. Like, Portugal, they won the Euro 2016, only winning one game in 90 minutes. That's a sign that Ronaldo was not even a dominant player in that game, in that tournament. In the final, those of you who are watching or who might remember, Ronaldo gets injured early in the first half, and he helps his team from the sideline, like cheering them on and maybe even coaching a little bit. Some people argue, but he was not. You know what I mean? That if you're gonna give Ronaldo credit of like, oh, he's won something, like, well, that's not the trophy. Look at him and respect him for what he's done at club level. Real Madrid. And Portugal usually has more talent than Argentina because they're based in Europe and they have a lot more development things that they have there and whatnot. I don't want to go too deep into that. I'll do a video on that, like the whole like the Europe bias in the game, and how Europe has a lot more resources, which leads then to a lot more wins, right? If you're born in Europe, you're likely to win more than if you're born in South America, in terms of like World Cups and all that stuff. And Argentina, yes, is one of few hopes for those of us who are not from Europe. When they're in the tournament, it's good. But this video is not about that. This video is about the joke of the GOAT conversation in football. You know, like I think there was a time where international football meant more. And I think in times of Pele and Maradona and all of that, yes, that was a time where you know, World Cups meant more. But today, you need to look at people's career in a club, because that's where the bread is buttered. And also, that's where most of footballers are playing their football. You know, you can't judge, just like you can't say a player who has a great tournament is now worth 100 million, then you can't then say, you know, winning a tournament makes you a GOAT, like, because that's 7 games. What about the rest of your career when you're playing 100 games a year and you are killing it? Like, I just want all of us football lovers and sports lovers to just be a little bit more rational about how we frame these arguments. Now, I'm not obviously saying I have the best way to think about it. I'm just sharing a perspective here about the lack of critique in our own thinking. We don't critique our own thinking about this GOAT conversation. And I see it in the same way in basketball. Like, people always argue like, oh, players from way back, you know, are better than players from today. And the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr, said it best. You know, I might mince his words, but what he was alluding to was that it's weird how humanity gets better in almost all spheres, but in sports. You know, I think people were talking about his Warriors team and how they would have been smashed in the 90s or whatever in the US, right? Like, Warriors were dominating and doing all kinds of things. I didn't even like the Warriors, but I liked the statement. I liked the statement that it's so flawed the way we think about these GOAT conversations, because players who are born in a later era seem to be very, very easily dismissed. And yes, World Cups meant more in that time, but like, let's not pretend that there's one rubric to measure greatness. And I think, you know, Pele, if you were a Pele person, great for you. If you're a Maradona person, great for you. If you're an MJ person, LeBron person, I like both. You don't have to make a choice as to like who's better, because you can't really know. Because, you know, it's like the whole argument of like, well, Kevin Durant became the best player in the world because he beat LeBron playing for Cleveland. You know, some people really, really buy into that because they listen to these morning shows, and it's ridiculous. You know, I just think the whole GOAT conversation is a joke. You know, let's enjoy these talented athletes because they have freakish talents, playing games that we love. You know, anyway, let me not tell you how to be a fan, but I would like for, you know, us as a community of sports and sports lovers to really think about how our biases, you know, shade the way we want to move the conversation, right? If I'm having an argument about who's better, MJ and LeBron, you know, and then make the argument of like, well, MJ was 6 for 6 in the finals, you know, why is it wrong to make it to the finals many more times and then lose the games and lose the playoff, you know, series that's the final? You know, it's almost like a lot of people who make that argument, it's as though Michael Jordan, they find excuses for all the years Michael Jordan didn't make it to the finals. And I love Michael Jordan. He's, for me, you know, one of the greatest players, if not maybe the greatest player to ever play. And I saw him, you know, I'm a supporter of the Bulls because of him. I was an exchange student there, but it's very hard for me to think no one else can ever be better than him unless they 6 for 6, because, you know, because of the talent pool gets bigger and better in the NBA, and as a result of that, it becomes harder to win. You will get some losses because there's a much more, you know, developed game of basketball.